think what I'm going to do, if it's okay with you, is maybe in just a few minutes, briefly touch on a few of the bills we're working on, and then one sort of on the legal side initiative, because it's a series of cases around the opioid epidemic. So kind of a quick update there, because that I try to think of something that's sort of big that impacts really every one of your readers, every one of the folks who live in your communities, and that is certainly work that we're doing that does that. So to dive into it, maybe I'll start on the legislative side, and I'll start by thanking Roland. Roland's been a huge help on the bill that I'm proposing, and working with some key legislators on the D&O tax for newspapers, and it's going well. Happy to sort of dive into kind of where it's at, but it's going well. Mark Bullitt, of course, and Jerry Flett have been huge partners on that. So this is agency request legislation. So as Attorney General, I can request legislation to the state legislature. We have 10 bills we're proposing. This is one of those bills, and we feel it's going well. Our hearings have been helpful. I want to say thanks to those who helped on that. We've had newspapers testify at those hearings. I've told my team this, Joyce and Rory, that I think the best testimony, no offense to Roland or myself, I think the best testimony honestly comes from folks like you. So as more hearings come forward, I just really encourage you to weigh in. It impacts communities all across the state and the residents of our state, and to hear directly from you as opposed to me or even Roland, as good as he is. I think the impact felt by you and what that legislation could do to help preserve the industry is extremely important. So that bill's going well, and we're going to keep working that bill, and we feel, I kind of like Mike Bill's thing about giving you headlines, right? I thought that was actually pretty good, so I should have come with that next very well. So hopefully one of the headlines is that D&O tax exemption passes the legislature. I feel reasonably optimistic on that. Number two, quick issue, missing and murdered Indigenous women and people that you've all written about, I suspect, over the years. My office is helping to lead a task force that's looking at these issues. That task force, their first recommendation, their key recommendation so far has been to create a cold case unit that they've asked be placed in the office of the Attorney General, so investigators, prosecutors, and an individual who would work with family members who have lost a loved one, a really important role, help navigate that. That's a request of theirs, and so we are working hard on that to get that funding in. So far, so good on that going forward, and we're optimistic that'll be adopted as well. I've got something in my throat there. I think I got it. So very important issue, and we feel good about where that bill is headed as well. Again, that'd be placed in the AG's office. We have a criminal division. I can't charge a crime if someone breaks into your car. That's your local prosecutors, but if they refer a case to us, we can then take that referral if we accept it and then file criminal charges. So we'd still need obviously the cooperation of local prosecutors, but of course we would have the expertise of a cold case unit. I believe to be the first of its kind anywhere in the country for this type of work, and is badly needed for obvious reasons to bring justice for those who've been lost and murdered. Last on the legislative side, just real brief, we also have our bill, I think it's our 7th year proposing it, on the ban on the sale of assault weapons. It's an issue you all know well, happy to answer questions about it. It's finally moving this year. It got through committee. That's the first time we've never gotten out of committee before. I don't think I'm confident enough to say it's going to be a headline you're writing, let's put it that way, but it is moving, and last year, of course, the legislature adopted my proposal to ban the sale of high-capacity magazines, which we've been proposing for years. So I think that was a sign to me that, hey, we got a pretty heavy lift on last session, and I think the legislature sees the headlines you're all writing about literally a mass shooting more than once a day in this country. I believe that's having an impact on their decision-making. Briefly on the opioid epidemic, and I'll turn to your questions. I won't go into any detail in any of these cases because there's too many, but I do want to highlight that for many years now, my office has been working on the epidemic in terms of litigating against corporations that, in our view, violated the law in pursuit of profits. And the harm that was caused by those decisions, are profound for families, for communities, for our state. So this is a series of cases. We're still filing them, by the way, but some have started to conclude. So we've recovered now so far about $1.1 billion from those cases, and we still have a lot of work ahead of us. That's by no means a final number. What I'll say about that is just one thing maybe is that, I just came from a conference with other attorneys generals that there are these national settlements. These companies don't want to enter into a settlement unless they get what they call global peace. Everybody signs a settlement, okay? Unlike I think virtually all AGs, on some big national settlements, I have declined to sign the national settlements, and we filed our own lawsuit here in Washington State against those corporations. That's risky, okay? Extremely risky, and it's hard to turn down a significant settlement for an uncertain case against a corporation that has a lot of resources to defend itself. But that's paid off so far. I think we've recovered close to $200 million more by going our own way than had we signed those national deals. And that's, of course, we still take, so I've got to be very careful about which cases I choose to do that. The resources we have in the office